Today's scripture lesson is from Matthew chapter 23, verses 1 through 15. Then Jesus said to the crowds and to his disciples, "The scribes and the Pharisees sit on Moses' seat, and therefore do whatever they teach you and follow it, but do not do as they do, for they do not practice what they teach. They tie up heavy burdens hard to bear and lay them on the shoulders of others, but they themselves are unwilling to lift a finger to move them. They do all their deeds to be seen by others, for they make their phylacteries broad and their fringes long. They love to have the place of honor at banquets and the best seats in the synagogues, and to be greeted with respect in the marketplaces, and to have people call them rabbi. But you are not to be called rabbi, for you have one teacher, and you are all students. And call no one your father on earth, for you have one Father, the one in heaven. Nor are you to be called instructors, for you have one instructor, the Messiah. The greatest among you will be your servant. All who exalt themselves will be humbled, and all who humble themselves will be exalted. But woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you lock people out of the kingdom of heaven, for you do not go in yourselves, and when others are going in, you stop them. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For you cross sea and land to make a single convert, and you make the new convert twice as much a child of hell as yourselves." Here ends the reading. Thanks be to God.
And dear friends, that is indeed the lectionary reading for this Sunday. I only expanded that by those last two verses about woes, and they will continue longer till the end of the chapter. There are actually 7 woes or curses from Jesus. And it's a challenge. It was a challenge for me to prepare for this sermon, especially in this time. Because this New Testament passage and passages like it were used and abused throughout the Christian history as an ammunition against the Jews for disturbing forms of anti-Semitism and anti-Judaism. But friends, that is anachronistic. That is inappropriate abuse of this gospel reading. And it must be said clearly, loudly, and forcefully. Firstly, this passage has nothing to do with anti-Zionism, because it predates Theodor Herzl and the emergence of Zionism at the end of the 19th century, by many centuries, as you can gather. It is not anti-Semitic because it predates racial and ethnic pseudo-theories which emerged in European Romanticism of early 19th century and which gave us this dangerous heresy. And it is not even anti-Judaism, even though that is much older through the Reformation and going to even to early church. But it is not anti-Judaism in the Bible and first few centuries, or century definitely, because it predates the separation of church and synagogue. Jesus was a Jew. All his disciples were Jewish. Early church, for at least a century, was a part of Judaism and understood itself as such. Matthew understood himself as a Jew, and his Christian audience understood itself as a religious movement within the Judaism. We cannot blame Matthew and his readers for anti-Semitism or anti-Judaism. That would be a gross misunderstanding or anachronism. Matthew, as a writer of this passage, of his audience, were not attacking or undermining people of another religion. That is simply not the case. They were having an argument, perhaps quite loud and intense and heated argument, as you could hear about, woe to you, Pharisees, hypocrites, and so on, about the shape and form, direction and priorities, meaning and purposes of their own shared faith tradition. And thus, if we want to interpret, understand this biblical passage, we must not fall into that dangerous trap of anti-Judaism, of pointing fingers at those others. In our times, explicating this passage, it is not about the scribes and Pharisees, about the rabbinical Judaism, not at all. Reading it and interpreting it today, it must be applied, interpreted, and as an argument within our own religion, about the direction of our own faith. That is how it must be interpreted today by us. And frankly, when you really pay attention, it is not that much difficult. Don't we all know? Don't we all know it in our current American Christianity? Just read Matthew 23 from this perspective and maybe project in your mind cinema Mike Johnson. Let us extrapolate this passage for us today, what it is and what it means to be Christian today. And as I said, don't we know it? All those self-assured and self-satisfied specimens of Christianity. They have deep knowledge of the Bible, but more precisely, they pretend to have that knowledge. They love quoting highly selected biblical passages, those passages which suit their ideological agendas, but they quote them, and even those they quote out of the biblical context, not to mention out of their cultural or historical context. Don't we know these Christians who present themselves as keepers, even owners of the divine revelation, divine truth itself? They are the only ones who know the divine will, and they are happy to tell everyone, and they are eager to impose this authority, especially on everyone around. Don't we know them? They are usurpers of divine authority and relish and wallow in bossing everyone around, loading people and society with the heavy burdens of their morality, I put it into quotation marks, while themselves breaking it all the time. Their fiery, rousing sermons against all sorts of things they label immorality, until they are caught in behaviors despicably pervert. Not because what they do, but because they are abusive and harmful to others. Don't we know them? They preach against the oppression of what they call big government, because they don't want the government to support widows and orphans. the poor and the unfortunate. Because government is obliged to do it without bias, or at least that's the purpose, and without strings attached. They want to distribute it through their own churches and their own fundamentalistic charities with all sorts of biases and strings attached, to blow up their egos and to handpick and then control the recipients. Only the right people, according to their choosing. Don't we know them? They are against the big and intrusive government unless they control that government. And then they use this control of the government and to the force of the government to invade people's private lives and people's private decisions, intrude all the way to their bedrooms and even to their wombs with their prejudices and demons of misogyny and homophobia and xenophobia. Don't we know them? Don't we know it? Don't we know it painfully in our own Christian religion? In many churches, denominations, and so-called Christian schools or charities, invading the state government and federal government and even to the Supreme Court, using and abusing Christian religion, turning it into a religion of fear, religion of force to boss people around, to the point that one is almost ashamed of being a Christian. Don't we know it? Don't we know it all? We don't need to point and shake our fingers at those others, scribes and Pharisees and Jews outside of our Christian tradition. We have them in our own faith. We are ourselves in need of having that serious discussion within adherents of our own religion inside of Christianity. What is the essence of our Christian faith? What is its primary meaning and focus and purpose? Is it burdening people with fundamentalistic nonsense, scruples and prejudices? Is it manipulating people through fear? Is it to impose on largely unwilling society ideologies of religious egotism and vindictiveness and control? Is God to be feared like some angry, abusive father or psychopath and sociopath? Or is God loving and caring? Is God present in acts of feeding and healing and liberating everywhere and anywhere, as Jesus taught us and as Jesus embodied? What is then the essence and prime mover of our religion? Is it fear or is it marvel? Are we trapped by fear or inspired and let be free and helping others to be free? Of course, putting it this rhetorically, you know where I stand. You might know how and where our Christian religion, according at least this congregation and this denomination, wants us to lead. From the oldest times, God wanted to inspire us humans and liberate us through mystery and wonder, through gift of the law, not to crush us, but to lead us to freedom. In Friday message, I mentioned Psalm 19, and I will read it again. And you can watch it on YouTube. That's particular Friday message. But from Psalm 19, just a few opening verses. The heavens recount the glory of God. The firmament proclaims the divine handiwork. Day to day pours out speech, night to night passes on knowledge. Yet it is not in elocution, nor in words. Their voice cannot be heard, but their tone fills the earth. Their words resonate all over the world. And then Psalm continues, and this mysterious hum of the universe equates with the law, with Torah, with a liberating force in it. That sense of mystery and wonder actually predates the Bible, predates Christianity and predates Judaism and predates even the psalmist who wrote these beautiful poetic words. It goes to the very roots of our ancient faith. And I can hear quotes from Ugaritic literature. You can say, oh, here we go again. But friends, because those are the roots of our faith. That's where it is coming from. And you will hear that it is similar. It's not quotation, which is making it even stronger argument for that. Because, you cannot assume the direct quotation over the centuries and hundreds of miles apart. But listen to this quotation. I have a word that I would say to you, a message that I would repeat to you, a word of tree and whisper of stone, the sighing of the heavens to the earth, of the deep ocean to the stars. I understand the thunder which the heavens do not know. I know the word unknown to humans, which the multitudes of earthlings do not understand. Come, I will reveal it to you. The essence of our faith, I am convinced, is not in fear or in an abusive, vindictive, sexist father figure. The essence is in this wonder, in this marvel permeating the entire universe, humming, singing, vibrating, inviting us to care, to love, and to live in liberty and bring people into liberty of divine presence. And in our own little way, we are all invited to chime in and join that choral spanning across the universe, spanning across the time and space. That is the argument I believe we are to have. That is the vision we are to share.